The thought of a Subaru still evokes memories of Colin McRae flying down a perilous mountainside in the WRC. But it's those lessons learned of the all-wheel drive traction that underpins modern Subarus. This is the latest one. It's a midlife facelift of the XV, which was originally launched in 2012 as essentially as a 5-door crossover hatchback. So the new car gets a revised bumper, a new grille, revised Hawkeye headlights, some nice shiny alloy wheels. And round the back the new look's finished off with new taillights, LEDs and a roof spoiler. There's revisions to the interior as well. Subaru have looked to improve the quality in here with better finished materials. You get soft touch plastics high up, although they're still quite hard lower down. There's new trim as well with metallic and piano black, while the new infotainment system is a touchscreen. In between the dials there's a new digital display as well. That's about it for in here, so let's get on the road. The lineup for the XV is pretty simple. There's 2 engines to choose from. Both are 4-cylinder boxer engines. One's a diesel, one's a petrol. There's 2 trim levels, SE and SE Premium. And there's 2 transmissions, a 6-speed manual or a 6-speed CVT automatic. We're testing the entry-level petrol, but it's got an automatic gearbox and it's in SE trim, so that's a starting price of £22,180. So it's naturally aspirated 2-litre engine, has 148 brake horsepower and 145 pound-feet of torque. That's enough to get it from 0 to 62 miles per hour in 10.7 seconds. And it doesn't feel particularly rapid, it's quite sluggish and lethargic low down, and because it's naturally aspirated, i.e. there's no turbo, you don't get that early surge that a turbo gives you, so you have to rev it hard, and it doesn't like to be revved hard. It's very wheezy, it's almost asthmatic until you get it higher up the rev range. If you consider that peak torque arrives at 4,200 revs per minute and peak power at 6,200 revs per minute, you can see where the problem lies. The automatic gearbox has got steering wheel mounted paddles which actually shift up and down very quickly. It's pretty good. If left to its own devices, it's not as impressive. If you're flooring away from a junction, you get to the point where you've done with your acceleration, you ease off, it changes gear, but there's a surge with it, so you sort of push on again for a split second. It's rather odd. This has got a permanent all-wheel drive system on it that's really designed for off-roading when you're going through big bumps, potholes down a horrible rutted road. You can feel it, and the suspension working really well. There's loss of grip. Pulling away from junctions, again, there's plenty of grip, but that may be down to the lack of power at the low revs. Where you do find it come in is on a slippery day on a roundabout perhaps. The first instinct for this thing is to understeer, and then you can feel the all-wheel drive system trying to figure it all out and get you back on the line that you're meant to be on, which it does pretty quickly, but it's a little jerky, to be fair. The steering setup's pretty light, but it's rather consistent, so you don't have changes in feel or weighting whilst you're driving along, and that's nice. It goes where you want it to go without particularly giving you much feedback, and the car follows. So you'll pick your line through the corner and the car will follow it through. There's a little bit of roll going into that corner, but it's pretty uneventful. Where it is eventful is coming out of the corner. As the weight inertia shifts from the outside as you're cornering back to the other side, there's a real wibbly wobbly moment. It's very jelly-like and it's rather unnerving, and it will stop you pushing on through corners. And it's that softness in the suspension that soaks up big potholes and manhole covers really rather well. What it doesn't deal with is smaller imperfections in the road, so whether it's a scarring or smaller bumps, and it can become quite fidgety and not really settle down. While those big bumps are being absorbed rather well, you can hear it happening, so you can hear the suspension noise coming through, especially from the rear. There's plenty of room up front. The steering wheel adjusts for reach and brake, and there's lots of height adjustment with a pump lever on the seat. The backrest again is a lever operated, and I can't quite find my perfect position. The notches seem to be too far apart. Visibility out the front's pretty good. I've got quite long roof pillars here, but there's a fan light which really helps out. And the back, the C-pillars, the boot pillars from the roof are quite thick and oddly shaped, but again there's a little window in there that just offsets any proper blind spots. But there is a reversing camera as standard on this car to really help you out. The infotainment system is okay, it looks pretty snazzy, but it's a little bit unresponsive to the touch, and you'll find yourself touching 2 or 3 times sometimes to really get it to engage. There's shortcut buttons around the outside which are useful, and there's a satellite navigation system on the premium SE Premium trim. It's reasonably spacious in the back. There's decent leg and headroom. While 3 passengers could fit in, there's a tall but quite thin transmission tunnel which helps out, but headroom's reduced. The biggest question over this car is that it's not a proper SUV. It's not the shape of a Qashqai, and that's going to appeal to a lot of people. Where the downside is boot capacity. Because it's a hatchback, it's only really got the size of a hatchback's boot, so you don't get that 4x4 SUV space, which is a little bit disappointing. The boot itself, the floor's generally flat but raises at the edge. There's a folding boot floor as well, but that feels a little bit flimsy, but usefully there's some compartments underneath. So the problem with the XV is it doesn't drive brilliantly, it's not particularly comfortable, but what it does give you is at this price point is brilliant off-roading abilities that are unmatched by many others. If you don't need that, then there's a plethora of SUVs and crossovers to choose from, but I can see this being used by a lot of people that need just that little bit more all-terrain ability.